Alright, hello. The draft is over. I'm back to do some just thoughts and power rankings. So I got the teams here. I'm not really going to rank them per se. I don't have like a tier list made, but I'm just going to kind of give them a score and they should, I guess, have a rough order to them by the end of it. And then I'll do some predictions too. Uh, I just kind of have this shit here, not really set up in any fancy way. I do intend to be doing Cold and Fluffy again. I'm not, I guess, considering this one of the episodes. I'll start that next week. I am going to be doing it a little different though. It was pretty hard to do with, what was it, 12 teams? There was just a lot to go over every week with me trying to go over every match. I ended up not doing it during playoffs. I got a little burnt out, I guess. So I'm going to be doing it a little different this season. My plan is that I'll do predictions each week, and I'll go over my predictions, but I'm only going to go over 2 matches each week. Since there's now 16 teams, it's even more than before. I'll go over one lower series and one upper series. And that is my current plan for Cold and Fluffy. For anyone that was wondering, because I've had a couple people ask me if I'm going to do it again. And the answer is yes, but it'll be a little different. Hopefully a little shorter on average, a little less effort for me. But before that, let's look at this draft day. So I had the player list here. Just kind of look over the general draft. The way I have this ordered is it's split between the big division and the little division for now. Pardon me. Got something in my throat there. And then I've actually listed it by MMR per fluffer. So the player's MMR divided by their cost, with the, I guess, least value the right term? Or I guess most value. The people who have the most fluffer spent per MMR, I guess. So, um, for the upper league, that was Phantom with 6.8 MMR per fluffer spent on him, and in the lower league, it was Pyro with only 3.6 MMR per fluffer spent. Now, of course, in the lower league, we do expect to see less MMR per fluffer in general, because there was less MMR and more fluffers. So in theory, that should be overall quite a bit lower. I think one of the funnier examples are Chris, who went for 3 fluffers, and Poppy, who went for 3 fluffers. Chris was 900 MMR per fluffer, and Poppy was 60, because Chris is literally 15 times Poppy's MMR. I don't know why I thought that was somewhat amusing. Both $3 players, but the MMR per fluffer obviously is always going to be a lot higher in the upper div. So anyway, did I actually have much to say about this? I think I originally predicted safe laners would be focused again, similar to last season, and I think for the most part that was true. The big bucks were spent on Phantom, Adam, Scroomlight, Roar, Buttery Greg. Lovell doesn't really count. We can talk about that outlier, I guess. But when I look at like the very top players at the upper league, it's mostly safe laners. Scroomlight's a safe laner, Phantom's a safe laner, Buttery Greg's a safe laner. Roar is not going to be a safe laner, but he could have been, I guess. And in the lower league, Pyro, Mommy Jesus, Loose Moose, and Zach Roy, I think, are all safe laners. So in the lower league, more so than the upper league, there was a lot spent on safe laners. So I was right there, I guess, which is cool. What I was totally wrong about was the cost of the highest player. I thought players were going to go for a lot more in upper league. It's a fall through draft. Your weakest players will never be that weak. I think I'm the biggest testament to that. Picking Radiant and Mothman at the end for 0 fluffers. People were surprised, but it was bound to happen mathematically. Like, someone's gonna be able to pick these players. You should never have issues with the roles, really, in the upper league. So I was surprised that no one really bid me up any further on Phantom. I thought I was going to be able to bid him over 600 and then move on. And then in the lower league, with the floor being a lot lower and the roles being a little sketchier because there's only a set amount of people to draft from, I thought the amount of money spent on the big players would be a lot less. But in reality, it was a lot more. We have 890 on Pyro, 710 on Mommy Jesus. Loose Moose is probably not really any more than Phantom, given there was more total money in the pool. I think if you adjusted for inflation, he may actually be less than Phantom. But the 890 on Pyro was very surprising. And even more surprising is that it wasn't really like an outlier. Because Mommy Jesus also went for 710. Like 890 is an obscene amount for sure. Like the fact is that high is crazy. But it's also insane to me that there's just another player going for 710 after that didn't have like, I don't know, the notoriety that Pyro does. So that was very surprising. I was surprised how many of the upper captains kind of held on to money for the middle players. Pardon me, yikes. Oh, this is a little out of whack. Did I not actually sort this by MMR for Fluffer? I think I've lied to you this whole time. I think it was actually just sorted by cost, wasn't it? Yeah, it's just sorted by cost. I don't know why I told you that earlier. So yeah. From the big players, I also mentioned Lovel's a bit of an exception here. As you see, a lot of these highly contested, expensive players went in the first or second round. Lovell was in the fourth round. It was literally just Bible Man, had one more slot, had a bunch of money left over for some reason, and just bought the player he wanted pretty much. I don't think anyone could contest him. Or maybe it's like only Yop could contest him and didn't want to. I don't remember. Let's sort this a little differently here. Let's just sort it by MMR and see how everyone fell. I guess I'm a little. I don't think I'm actually. I'm a little surprised how many reach picks we had, and half of these are wafts, and they were like intentionally griefy. This part doesn't surprise me as much, I guess. With especially some of these like core players that are would be on the lower end of the upper league falling through, and some of these support players getting picked up instead. That's not that weird. I think where would the line be? The line would be here for MMR. So Cryptic in theory should have been, I guess, could have been the lowest MMR player picked if no one reached at all. And we're seeing 6 players below that line getting picked up instead. I think most captains were pretty reasonable. Wafs is like the one exception, and I guess I'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about his team. But yeah, actually pretty reasonable. The more I think about it, the more I think this was pretty good. Best in the West, probably like the one person that got kind of gypped, because they are actually a support player that for some reason just didn't get picked up by anyone. Probably because they weren't very well known. But yeah, that's that. All right, let's do some power rankings of sorts. So this doesn't take too long. Okay, we'll start with the big league. So that's the one that went first. And I guess I'll just go in order top down. So let's start with Stonks. On Stonks' team, we have the Dude, Jackman, Chris, his Discord name's level 7 for some reason, and Quill. I think this team's a little bit weird. We have really only one core player, and that's Chris at 2700 MMR. And I'm not even 100% sure, and Jackman, although Jackman's an offlaner, obviously. But I wasn't even sure if Chris was going to play Pause 1. Stonks is going to be going mid, which will be an interesting experiment because he's been a support player for most of his Dota career, with a little bit of a safe lane, I think, worked in. And that's pretty much it. The Dude is obviously probably one of the best support players, if not the best support player in upper division, and I guess the league as a whole, excluding coaches. Jackman's obviously a very good offlaner, and Quill is probably a value Pause 5, I'd say. I think if, and I should digress. I have a lot of personal bias with this team. I've had Chris on my team twice. I play with Stonks all the time. Had Jackman on my team recently too. Love Jackman. Play with Quill pretty often as well. Been in the same circles for a long time. So I really want to like this team. I'm probably gonna just let that shine through and say that I do like the team. Um, I think Chris could definitely be a pause one. In upper, he would be a weaker pause one. I think I said last season for when I ranked teams that I think weak pause ones are always a pretty big negative, and I'll definitely say it again for this season, for upper especially. I think teams that just have very weak pause ones, which there's a couple of them that do, it is a pretty big hit. I'm of the personal opinion that pause one's like the most important role right now. And even though some parts of it are very easy, just he who hit creeps. If your pause one player is making mistakes and not playing great in that like mid to late game area where they're coming online and joining in the actual game of Dota 2, or they're dying earlier than that when they're trying to farm or just being ineffective. I mean, that will just lose you the game if your opponent's pause one is not doing that, not making those mistakes. So having a sub 3k pause one is like definitely a bit of a problem, but at the same time, I don't know. I like Chris a lot. I think he's quite good for his badge at least. I think Jackman and the Dude is an incredible offlane combo if they choose to run it that way, who will hopefully be dominating their lane almost every game. And if Stonks can just pull out some magic in the mid lane and do some work there, I think this team has a decent chance. I guess if I'm super honest with myself, I'm still going to end up giving them like a C on an A through F scale. Because at the end of the day, they're the second lowest MMR by a pretty large margin. And they do have a weaker pause one, but I don't know. I think it could be like similar to Jackman's team last season, where we get surprised and they really outdo what they look like they should do on paper. Because I think there's some good shot calling and some good value on that team. But moving on to one of the highest average MMR teams, not the highest, but third, so up there, Yopman. Sorry. This one, I think, on paper, it looks quite good. You have players that make sense in their roles. I believe Mr. Child is a mid player. Let's double check his Italian Dota buff. Do 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 do. He's not. Wait, what? Is he a? I thought he was a mid player. His Dota buff is still hidden for some reason. Hate Treebeard. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. What I was gonna say is, Yop is a capable pause one. I think TK fits very well in that offlane role. Sorry About It is a good pause 4. Cryptic is a decent pause 5. And I thought Mr. Child was a mid player of some kind. Obviously, no idea how he plays, never seen him play before, but I guess he's not a mid player, which is interesting. Has Yop been playing with him at all? Is there any like anonymous profiles in here? It's not this one, is it? Is it going to be Cryptic mid? It could be Cryptic mid, I guess. I mean, Cryptic did play mid last season. Maybe we'll see it come back? Okay, I'm suddenly kind of confused here. If Cryptic is mid, then I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty around this team. Um, I think Cryptic did very well on mid last season. I think he really surprised me with how well he performed. But this season, the expectations are a lot higher. The average team is a lot better. He no longer has just an innate MMR advantage with his team overall. His opponents mid are on average a lot better as well, if I didn't already say that. Is he still playing mid? I guess I could check his Dota buff too. I'm not. He hasn't even been playing it recently. So I'm like super not. I'm not convinced Cryptic would be a great mid. I don't know if Mr. Child plays mid. What's going on here? Okay, I guess I'll ignore that for now. I'll say I was a little concerned at Mr. Child when I was personally scouting at his. I need this not in Italian. Can I get it not in Italian? There we go. I was a little concerned when I looked at his servers. When I see he has a combined like 30 games on US servers with a terrible win rate. It doesn't make me think he's gonna be super powerful playing on US East constantly. It's possible that's recently changed. It's possible he even moved to the States. I don't know. I think he said he was still in Europe when we were talking about draft time, so probably not. But that initial like seeing that was concerning, and he didn't really look like a player that was going to be playing well for his MMR if he's going to have potentially ping issues. But he did also lose a lot of MMR recently, and it's possible he's a little sandbagged right now. I don't know. But that's kind of a question mark. TK is a question mark for me, even though I've known him forever. Just because I don't know what TK plays like nowadays. TK plays primarily in these like 2K average stacks, often late at night. I guess maybe not that late at night anymore, but it's hard to tell how good TK is because he doesn't really ever play in games that are his MMR and average. You don't very often see TK, at least I don't really ever think I see him in like a 4K average or mid 3K average game all that often. I think the rare time that I do, it's because he's queuing with like Vel's Ancient Smurf or whatever it is, which hardly counts. So I'm not really sure how well he'll be performing in this league because he definitely can carry those 2K games. The question is he able to play as well against better opponents? Sorry about it, hasn't been playing a lot of Dota, but he should be fine on the pause 4. And Yop himself has recently climbed to Divine, I believe. Yeah, Divine 3 now, holy shit. He's on a roll. But he has been spamming just a ton of Ricky. And hopefully he's not becoming too much of a one-trick pony, because of course when you're playing in captain's mode, it's so easy to just ban out hero spammers that only play one hero. And if that's what Yop's doing right now, it might not be the best for captain's mode games. But we'll see. It's possible he's learning a lot playing in higher mark games, so he might be value. Overall, I'm not really sure. The mid situation's got me really concerned here. But I mean, if Yop's a Divine 3 carry, and he can actually play like a Divine 3, which he almost definitely won't right now, he's literally just hit that medal. But if he's at least an improving carry, then the team's probably decent. And so I'll give him a B. I'll give him a nice B. Maybe we'll do some plus and minuses at some point. My own team, we're all right. I think we're okay. Honestly. We had a scrim, it went pretty well. But F for fuck you, Phantom, you piece of shit. Alright. Lava. We scrimmed these guys. I've actually seen these guys scrim twice now, because I watched them scrim Yumi, and then we scrimmed them ourselves. I think this team has a decent layout. The core trio is really nice with Lava, FJ, and Buttery Greg. FJ is not a mid player traditionally, but I think he plays it very well. I think FJ is really just like a general Dota player. I don't know. He's a bit of a monkey sometimes, but he does just play, I think, the early and the mid game pretty well, very aggressively. I think he can be really flexible, and I think he's going to slip into the mid role really easily. My only concern originally was going to be his laning, because that is definitely a very unique thing about mid, is playing that 1v1 lane as a core. And as you can see, he mostly does play support in the games he plays, which is a lot of games. But when he scrimmed my team, I think, won his lane pretty hard both games. So that's not really a fear. So I think FJ is actually one of the best mids in the pool, based on what I've seen. I think Lob's a very good offlaner. I think Greg's a very capable pause 1. The support duo is where it gets a bit weird. we have two players whose only real hero is Wind Ranger, unless you consider Techies a real hero, because Pause 4 AM definitely isn't. And one of these players has to play 5, and the other has to play some janky ass 4, unless Lava can wrangle them into playing real heroes, which he looked like he kind of was. I know. I was watching boxes. I think it was the Yumi scrim where he played Rubik and looked very capable, and I see he's played some Spirit Breaker recently, which is a good sign. Please tell me he didn't go Dagon or something. Yeah, pretty reasonable build. I personally dislike Orbit Corrosion, but that's a personal thing. And I think that means JB is going to be playing Pause 5. Probably not practicing it in his pubs. Still playing mostly Pause 4 in his pubs. But at least in the scrims I saw, JB was playing Pause 5. They could mix it up based on the hero. Apologies, I keep burping. I just had a bunch to drink, I guess. But anyway, as I was saying, it's kind of weird that they have two Pause 4s and two very gimmicky Pause 4s. JB is known, even though his Dota buff looks pretty normal, he's known as a Wind Ranger spammer. It looks like he's actually playing Dota again on this account. It looks like he may actually be expanding his hero pool a little bit. I think he was always capable on a large amount of heroes, but I don't know. He seemed to only ever want to play Wind Ranger and would show up drunk and ask for Wind Ranger and then kind of feed if he wasn't on Wind Ranger sometimes. So I don't know. JB is probably fine. Boxes is a bit of a weird reach. I don't think he's a bad player. I think mechanically he's probably actually pretty decent. It's really more the thinking aspect of Dota that I think he maybe falls short on a little bit. And obviously no one here is actually good, but I don't know. It's a little weird they don't have like a real quote unquote 5 player. They don't have someone that's really used to playing Pause 5. So we'll see how their lanes go. I personally had a pretty easy time laning against them, but I think the Yumi team maybe just lost the lane. The Yumi team lost in scrims to them pretty hard when I watched. So I don't know. I'm gonna give them. What am I gonna give them? Who do we have left? Let's think here. I'm gonna give them an A. I think this team's quite good. I think the Tricore is very good, and even though the support duo leaves me with a couple questions in regards to their pools and their ability to play that 5 role, I'm sure it'll work out. 5 isn't very hard. I think JB in particular, being a bit more of a Dota boomer, been playing Dota for a long time, and being pretty easy to get along with, should be able to fill out that 5 role pretty easily. So, hoping for the best in that regards. Okay, now we get on to these fucking dumbasses. This is the Waff's team. He has Scroomlight on the team. He managed to get Scroomlight, I think, for a pretty good price as well, really. I expected Scroomlight to easily be top 2 most expensive players. I think he was only like 3rd or 4th. I guess we could have a quick look at that, actually. Scrimlight went for 545, less than Adam at 580. I mean, he still went for a lot. Maybe it isn't that good of a price, but it's acceptable. I think Scrimlight and Phantom going for less than 600 is less than they should have gone for. So if that was a good pickup. And the WoF Scrimlight duo, if they choose to play Dota seriously, which they probably never will, at least for this season with these teammates, could be really scary and is something to look out for. And then the rest of the team goes downhill at incredible speed. We have Chairman Meow, who, as a support, which I think he's been playing recently, seeing some offlane here as well. Actually, quite a bit of offlane. Interesting. I thought he was playing a lot of support recently, but it seems like it's a bit of a mix. Definitely is some support in here, but a lot of offlane. So that's probably their offlaner, I guess, huh? One of these two mid and one of these two safe lane? I don't suppose their Dota buffs will be useful. But either way, PJ is an okay player. I think he was fine to go upper. I don't think he's going to be one of the scarier cores. When I'm looking at teams with Lava, Bible Man, Jack Man, many men, big burly men, and I think about the picture of PJ holding his anime body pillow, I'm just not really scared. It's almost comical to think about facing PJ in the off lane. So I don't think that's very scary. And then we have the Maniac pickup. It's funny. Maniac went upper because he's kind of a meme, but honestly, I think it's super reasonable he went upper. He is a reach pick, but he's a support player. He's an okay support player. He plays a lot with wafts. He should work well with wafts. I think I would probably take Maniac over a high 2K core only player. I don't necessarily think he should have gone over players like Best in the West and Fishay, who definitely can play support. Best in the West is support main, but it's a reasonable pick. I think it's pretty reasonable. I think what wasn't reasonable was picking up Rogan Tasty, aka Brent. I think the fact he's not only gone for 2 reaches on one team when he didn't need to, but he's reached this far, was a little silly. I think this team will get along. They'll probably win some games. They're all friends. I'm sure it'll be a good time. But at the same time, actually, I think it is a little bit. It kind of sucks that someone like Best in the West has gone to the lower league because of this, when they're a Pause 5 main that probably wanted to be practicing support in a higher MMR environment than their pubs, ideally, if they could. Obviously, there's no promise of that when you sign up for this league, but it's probably what they were hoping for. I could be wrong. I didn't look at their preferences on upper lower, but what I guess part of my concern is that I said this before we even drafted. The thing with fall through draft is that if you have too many players like Wafts that are kind of willing to do these like beam mega dives, you end up with you don't just end up with like 1 or 2 potential players that could have gone upper, probably should have gone upper, and now fall into lower when they may not have wanted to play lower. If and I've seen it in some RD12 mini drafts. If you have like 6 wafts out of the 8 captains, everything just kind of goes to shit. And that's why I was initially really iffy on fall through draft. I think it worked okay. As we already looked, there was very little diving, and I think pretty much every single dive other than this one was reasonable. So, it's fair. I'm not going to hate on Wasps for it. I hope they have fun. It looks like a fun team. I'm not convinced they'll have great scores, but it would kind of suck if this team went like 0-8 and disbanded. And I don't think they will, but I don't know. I hope they don't, because that would really suck. But I don't know. If this team did this meme pick only to lose all their games, so that like 3K supports couldn't play upper, that would kind of be a bummer. And I think if captains made a habit of it, it would actually be a problem. But for now, it's probably fine. So I guess I'll try and move on from this, since I'm being a bit of a Debbie Downer. But yeah, I don't know. This is like the one issue that can come up with fall through draft. I'm glad only one captain did it, and it's a pretty funny group of people that it ended up being. I'm hoping for some good blogs out of Brent about how this team goes. I'm sure it'll be an absolute shit show. So hope we get some insider perspective. But yeah, they're a fucking D. I think Scroomlight and Wafts will carry some games. But I don't know, dude. They're the lowest MMR by a long fucking margin. I know Wafts is kind of sandbagged at 3.9k, but that's only if he actually plays the game seriously, which he definitely won't. I think he's just here to have fun, to play with his friends. Perfectly reasonable. Don't think he's going to win a lot of games with this lineup. But hopefully they can get some wins here and there, or maybe I'm just totally wrong and they end up massively outplaying their MMR. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think it's just a bit too much reach to be successful. Next up, we have the Bible Man team. This team is a little interesting. They ended up getting this. I think he spent more on Lovell than any other player, and it was mostly just because I think players he wanted just didn't get bid up. Pingling in particular. Pingling didn't really go for much at all, I don't think. 325. He stands out a little bit. Maybe not too much, because we got FJ, Yolk Soup, TK, but I mean, Pingling's actually known to be a core player, whereas these other guys, the Dude, FJ, Yolk Soup, all known for being supports. TK doesn't really play any one role in particular, so I'm not surprised to see not too many people bid on Pingling, because he is a bit of a pill, but it worked out for Bible Man, I guess. And he definitely did get Pingling a little bit cheaper than his skill when he's not, tilting out and throwing a tantrum. Would you would think he would go for. When Pingling is on his A game, he's worth more than 325, I think. But we'll see how it goes exactly here. First of all, I'm a little curious because I haven't looked yet what role it looks like Pingling and Lovell are going to be playing. Is it going to be Pingling mid? That's kind of what it originally sounded like. I know at one point it looked like he was trying to be more of a safe laner, but Lovell is definitely a pause 1, so I think this is what we're going to see in the safe lane. Is this a game where they all play together? It is. Wonderful. We see the Pingling Meepo. We see Bibleman, Centaur. And then who's missing? No one. This is actually the whole team. I forgot he reached for Debness. Okay. Very cool. So Pingling mid, Bibleman off lane, Lovell safe lane. It's an okay tricore. It's definitely not the best. I obviously think of Lava's tricore being better. I think arguably Waff's is even better, even though it's more of like a duo core plus PJ. But it's an okay tricore. It's definitely not the worst. The supports are kind of where I think I cast the most doubt. There's obviously a lot of questions about Lovell because he's new to the league, and there's always questions about Ping because Ping is really good if he's on a team that he enjoys, and really bad if he's on a team that I think stresses him out. But the supports is, I guess, where I'm going to focus because the supports, when I looked at these Dota buffs, I was not super impressed by the combination of players. I know Ceres. I know what Ceres plays. It's a lot of the just standard pause 5s, reliable pause 5s plus Oracle. And then with that in mind, you'd expect someone that seems to be strictly pause 4, but I look at the Debness Dota buff, and it's just mostly pause 5. I mean, it's a very impressive win rate for sure. Hitting Legend 1 in 400 games is super impressive. The win rates on some of these heroes is super impressive. I think someone told me he's like a League player or something. That's just, he understands the basics of MOBAs already, so he's catching on to Dota very quickly. So it's possible he's like a crazy value pick, but I'm looking at his hero pool, and really with 400 games, you wouldn't expect a lot of like nuanced hero knowledge. So if he doesn't start playing like, I don't know, things that aren't like Ancient Apparition and shit more often, because he's also playing some Pause 1, potentially for a different team or just for fun, I don't know. But I think if he doesn't start practicing some Pause 4s, he may be a bit of a weak link, for lack of a better term. There's a lot of pause 4s. You don't need like many games on. They're really fucking easy. Pause 4 as a role in general is really easy. And if this guy's mechanically talented, I think it should be super easy to just pick up some pause 4s. But if he literally comes into league games like I've never played this hero in my life and plays it for the first time, it could just cause some issues. It could cause some misplays. He may not be playing to his full potential in that scenario. So I don't know. My initial thought was, what the hell? There's two pause 5 players. Then getting a little more background on Debness and looking at his Dota buff, it's like, well, actually, he should be able to pick up pause 4 really easily. But now the question is just, will he choose to do it? Will he just get at least like, fucking one game on Clockwork here, one game on Spirit Breaker here, a couple games on Rubik. He actually already has some games on Rubik, so that one's probably fine. Something along those lines. That is a very high KDA. Holy shit. Sorry, that's a distraction. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. It's a bit of a risky pick. It looks like he'll probably end up performing very well for Zemamar, but at the same time, who knows? The dude has 400 games and doesn't really play pause forward very often. So overall, the team looks okay. I think I'm going to give it similar to his brother, a B. There's a few question marks. Lovell's a question mark for me. Debness is a question mark for me. And Ping, probably not a question mark, but if things fall apart, I think he might become a question mark. So we'll see. It's probably going to be like an A team or a C team. I don't I don't know. I may be harking on the ping thing a little bit too much, but I think this team will probably either do very well or kind of crash and burn. I don't actually think it'll be too much in the middle. I'm just not 100% sure which way it's going to go. Um, so I'm giving it a B, and we're moving on to Yumi. Yumi's team, pretty high MMR. I think he's fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, fourth highest MMR. This team is a little bit mishmashy in the roles. We have Yumi, Roar Princess, and Snowstorm. Woe is obviously going to be the 5. That's the one player here that's really clear to me. And when I was watching them play, they had Snowstorm pause 4, Yumi pause 1, and Princess pause 2 with Roar offlane. I think Roar offlane is very sensible. I think he fits that role very well. He's a very good player. Princess mid, I have some thoughts on, but it's okay. I don't think he's going to be one of the strongest mids this season. Last season, at least at the beginning of it, I was thinking he was definitely one of the stronger mids. This season, not as much, largely just because there's more competition than before. But also because I think he showed he wasn't actually as strong as I initially thought last season, in terms of actually being able to carry games from mid. Yumi's a very capable pause 1. I think in an organized league environment, he plays above 3.5k for pause 1. He's very good at hitting creeps, always has been. He's pretty good laner as well. It's very hard to shut down Yumi early. You almost have to just rely on going late and outplaying him in like the mid to late game. Team fights, which I don't think he's as great at. I think watching his mid game Dota play is like almost like a totally different player sometimes, where he's just doing really weird shit after just farming like a fucking god for the first 20 minutes. What else is there? Roar, check. Oh, Snowstorm pause 4. That's the one I guess I didn't really talk about too much. It's a little weird because he's usually a mid. I think he can probably play pause 4 fine though. I mean, it's pause 4, it's an easy roll. I think the big thing for me with this team is that I don't have a very high opinion of the core's ability to dictate a Dota game. I don't think Yumi's really a very good shot caller. I don't think Roar's a very good shot caller. And I've never even heard Princess attempt to shot call. But on the other hand, I think Snowstorm is the kind of guy that seems like a very good shot caller. And I think I've never seen it personally, but I've heard Woe is a good shot caller. I don't know how true it is, but that's what people tell me. So I think if like the supports and Snowstorm in particular can kind of lead the game, this team could be good. But when I watched their scrim, it was pretty much the worst case scenario I expected. Like when I saw this team, it's like there's a lot of good players on this team, but I could totally see them just like falling apart and not really playing the mid game well, and that's exactly what happened in their scrim when I watched it. Um, Game 1 I think was pretty stompy, but game 2 I remember it looked like they'd done quite well in the lanes. They were even if not ahead, and then the mid game came around, and the end of laning phase even, and it's just like they weren't doing anything intelligent really, and the other team did, and they just lost the game. It just went sour very fast, and if they aren't able to fix that, I don't think this will be a very good team. If they are able to fix that and they're able to actually play well together and be in the right place at the right time, I think it's easily one of the better teams. I'm debating giving them an A, but I think for now, well, I've got to give someone else an A, don't I? Are we? This is a bell curve? I'll give them a B plus. B with potential. Because I think surface level, raw skill, I think they're mid tier, but I think if they can, come together as a team, I think they could be quite good. I think they have a lot of potential. All right, last team. I need to go a little faster, don't I? This is actually going to be fucking forever. I'm just going to accept the fact I'm going to be up till 1 a.m. doing the little league and predictions. Fiery Man. Fiery Man, Fiery Man. Fiery Man had a very interesting draft. He picked up a random assortment of core players. And that's kind of it. His MMR average is very high. It's the highest in the league. It reminds me a lot of the Cryptic draft, but instead of a bunch of supports, it's a bunch of cores. In theory, that's probably better. I don't know. I guess going over individual players, I know very little about Fiery Man. I know he is a non-stop Discord voice, non-stop Discord presence in the 82L Discord. But he hasn't really played a lot of Dota recently. He had this team that fell apart season 30, and so he didn't play amateur Dota for a while, and he didn't play pubs for a while, and then he came back and lost a lot of pubs. So I don't know if he has some rust he's gonna shake off and be very good, or if he's maybe gonna be just kind of rusty for a while. But I'm not super impressed by his Dota buff. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. He looks pretty darn bad, kind of anti-value. I look at this Dota buff, I look at these recents, I don't expect him to play like a Legend 3. I expect him to play worse than that, based on how he's been performing recently. But we'll see. Maybe he could shake it off. Yolk Soup is a very interesting situation, because I actually have no idea what role she's going to play. Originally, she was saying she wanted to be Pause 1, but then they picked Wee Lickum. And I would be surprised to see him play anything but Pause 1. But who knows? Yolk is a divine player, at least on Enigma and Lion. Although God, the Enigma is questionable every time I've seen it. So who knows? I have no idea what Yolk is doing. So I guess I'll just move on to Adam. Adam is a mid player. Adam will almost definitely be playing mid for the team. He's pretty capable. He's a pretty good hero pool, I think. In terms of the quality of the hero pool, not the quantity of the hero pool, we have a 33% win rate together. It's entirely Adam's fault. Adam's fucking garbage. I take back everything I said. GSP, on the other hand, is very good. I think GSP is a player that has genuinely impressed me most times I've seen him play. He has a pretty wide set of experience. That's not quite what I wanted to say. He's played a lot of roles. I've seen him play 4, I've seen him play offlane, and I've seen him play mid, and he seems equally good at all of them. So I think he's fairly versatile and well-rounded. I don't think he's necessarily one of the best offlaners in this pool, because there's a lot of pretty capable offlaners in the pool. But I think he'll do pretty well. I think he has high potential to play above badge. I think the combination of Adam and GSP make for a very good 2-3 duo that could potentially take over the mid game a lot. Especially if Yolk is on support as well. That's a power trio, I think. I don't know where that puts Fiery Man. Would that be Fiery Man 4, Yolk 5? Or the other way around? I'm not sure. Because the big question mark of this draft, and I think actually the big mistake of this draft, was drafting Wee Lickum, also known as Wee Lickham, or Wee, or Dogshit Monkey King player. Wee Lickum only plays Pause 1. He has to be playing Pause 1 for this team. I would be surprised if he was playing support, but I suppose it's possible. My main issue with this is I just don't really see the point. This is gonna be one of the weakest Pause 1s in the division. The only player that's potentially weaker is gonna be Chris, and from what I've seen of them both playing, I'd say Chris is better. I've already said I think Pause 1s are super important. Your team is absolutely made or broken by your Pause 1. So it's a weird pickup for me, given that he already had a bunch of core players, including a Divine player who was willing to play Pause 1, wanted to play Pause 1. It's possible that Yolk was memeing us all along and that she PM'd Fiery Man to pick Wee Lickum, because I wasn't aware Fiery Man himself knew of the legend of the Wee Lickum Monkey King, but I know Yolk plays with Wee Lickum, so maybe it's all a ruse, maybe it's all intentional, I don't know. Generally speaking, overall, the team all together, all the parts combined, I'm not super sold on it. I'm feeling similar to how I thought about Cryptic's team at the beginning of last season, which wasn't very positive. It's you have a lot of MMR, but it doesn't look very good. You have players that are looking very rusty. You have players that are going to be playing off role. And like outside of like I don't know. I don't think Adam and German Sparkle Party GSP I think are like good foundations for a team, but I think you need more than that. I don't know. Like I could definitely see these three players dragging along Fiery Man and doing a lot in the mid game, but is Weelickham then gonna, put the ball in the goal, take it to the end, and win the game? I'm not super convinced. I'm gonna give them a C. So I guess overall, I don't have any way to order this because it'll be all fucked. But yeah, rough power ranking here. I guess we'll do. We'll do predictions at the end. We'll move on to a little league. Oh damn! Brightside just hit me with a good night Kings. That's how you know it's late. Oh, I'm failing to alt tab right now. There we go. Okay, so let's do the same thing now with a little league. This will probably be a little faster because I just don't fucking know any of these people. That's a slight exaggeration. I know a lot of them, and I've tried to keep an eye on it. I've watched like 4 or 5 scrims at this point, so hopefully I have like a kind of vague idea of at least how some of these teams have been playing right off the bat. I guess quickly overall in the draft, the MMR average here is a lot wilder. We go from 2,300 to 1,600, a massive 600 MMR swing. Some of this is due to these super low MMR players. I'm gonna do the same thing I did last season. Actually, I'm gonna change all these guys to 1,000. I don't. The reasoning for that is just that MMR this low is just fucking meaningless. Most of them are gonna play above it. So I'll just adjust these all because I think that's more accurate. Personally. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. When I've seen Poppy play, I've seen Gwen play. I just don't think that someone that's 100 MMR is 10 times worse than someone that's 1,000 MMR. Realistically, they play at the same level, at least for the sake of these kind of leagues. When you're that fucking low, it all blends together. So that's why I adjust them all to 1K. I think it's more accurate. 100 MMR is more like a weird outlier that just fucks with the average. So yeah, starting at the top, which is gonna be Oz. Let's go. Best in the West, the Pause 5 that unfortunately fell to the lower div. New Couch Day, an incredible Pause 5 player, for his MMR at least. Supra was a core player last season. I don't remember which team he was on. I don't remember. It may have actually been. Was it Loose Moose or Supra that was on the. No, Supra was on the Harb team. So that's how you know he's got a steely disposition. Is that the right term? Oh no, it's fucking late. I'm just saying things at this point. I remember this Dota buff. He looks all over the place in terms of roles. Looks like he might be sticking to offlane a little more right now. Hard to say. Should be okay. I mean, I don't know. He's a Crusader core, I guess. I think this badge looks a little lower than the MMR he put down, right? Isn't this more like 1800? It doesn't matter that much. And then Shia LaBeouf, apparently Rabbi's brother. I didn't realize. I knew that Rabbi's played with this person forever. I didn't realize they're actually related. Unless that's a meme and I'm getting duped. But Guardian player looks like a mix of everything. Just kind of plays what they feel. Probably gonna be support on this team. I guess the first thing I'm really noticing is that there's just a lot of supports. Oz plays a lot of support. Best in the West is a support main. New Couch Day is a support main. Oz last season was looking to play Pause 1. That's why Maniac picked him for Pause 1 before the Nomad incident happened. So maybe he'll play Pause 1 again, but then they need a mid. Super looks like they're going to be off lane. This team is a little weird to me. There are too many supports in lower league. Teams like this are bound to happen. But this one's especially baffling because there isn't really any Pause 1 or Pause 2 players. I think I heard someone say Oz is Pause 2, so maybe I'll just roll with that. New Couch Day has some Pause 1 experience for sure. So maybe he's going to come back to the Pause 1 role. Oh, and it looks like he's practicing it. So he's recently picked it back up, some Pause 1 gameplay. I don't know if he's always done this where he's mixed the two. I thought he fully switched from Pause 1 to Pause 5 at some point, right before he got better. So I remember, like, I swear he used to be like Guardian. I remember when he like first showed up in the LD12 Discord as this like Guardian Pause 1 player. And he like metamorphed into this like super value Pause 5 player that hit like a fucking 2.5k, and it's like, damn. But so if he's playing Pause 1, that's probably fine. These games are all over the place. There's like some pretty rough looking games, and there's this 18 1 and 10 PL game, which is pretty insane. He's playing some solo queue, it looks like, practicing Pause 1. So it looks like it is going to be Ozbid, New Couch Day Pause 1, Super Off Lane, and then these two on support. I actually watched these guys scrim, so I should probably have known their roles. I didn't download the game after watching it, so I don't think I have it saved. So I can't go look, but okay. So thoughts. You've got a lot of people off rolling by the looks of it. You've got Oz switching to mid. You've got New Couch Day switching back to Pause 1. I don't think they'll necessarily be too bad at it, but this team is on paper the second highest MR team, and I don't think it's going to play quite to that. I don't think they're going to look like. I don't think they're the second best team. I guess is what I'm really getting at here. The team looks okay. I like the fact that they have at least a couple players in their roles. God, that sounds worse. I like the fact that the players that are switching roles, that are like off rolling technically, it's not that big of a deal. Like New Couch Day playing Pause 1 is different than like someone like Ceres playing Pause 1. Even though New Couch Day is primarily a 5 player nowadays, he at least has a history on Pause 1. So I don't think it's like a crazy off roll. Oz, I think in theory, isn't a crazy off roll either. I heard he's played some heroes mid. Why does this account have no games on it? Oh, this is his fucking new account. I hate people that do this. He's at least playing some mid, and I know he's been playing some core on this account as of like the beginning of season 0. So, it's okay. We'll just give him a B for now. We'll move on. Nick's team. Alright. This is like a pretty classic Nick team. The MMR average is a little lower because he's gone for his friends. A lot of them got bid up quite high and he wasn't able to get them. Pyro literally bid above the amount of money he had. RNGesus got, I think, bid up pretty high too. But he's got RNGesus and Ladder Lads. Then he got Roxy from his last season team, which is once again, it's another like classic Nick thing where if he doesn't get his IRL friends, he then goes to players that he's played with recently on teams. I think he's picked New Couch Day on his LD12 teams like 3 times now. And then a friend of Roxy's, I believe, City of Ghouls. Yeah. It was Harold. So I like the fact this is a bunch of players that play with each other. We've got 3 guys that play with each other all the time, who are gonna, I believe, make up the Tricore. Then we have one of their previous teammates along with their friend for the support duo. I watched these guys scrim today. They looked pretty good. Ladder Lads in particular, I think, impressed me with his Pause 1 play, at least one of the games. He looked pretty solid. I think his build made me want to like pull out my teeth, but not as much as other things in that game, like Roxy's Pause 4 Clock. But it's it was pretty good. I think it was overall pretty impressive. It was better than I expected for someone of that MMR. And I think this team looks pretty solid, honestly. I don't necessarily think. Do I think this is one of the better teams? I guess I have to look through real quick. I think it might be one of the better teams. It's hard to say. But I like the fact that there's, in theory, a lot of pre-existing synergy. Nick has proven me wrong time and time again. I feel like whenever I call a Nick team bad, it ends up overperforming. He's like the mad scientist captain, and so for that, I will believe in him for once, and this is probably the team that'll fail because of that, and give him an A. I think the only other time I've rated Nick's team highly, it did bad, so I apologize in advance for cursing you. Next up, we have the highest MR average team in the lower division, and also the team I am partnered with, Mr. Hawks. Hawks told me before the draft they had a method that he was like ranking players with to determine how much to spend on them or something, and he ended up with the highest MR team, which makes me think whatever the fuck he was doing worked. I guess I think so. If he was trying to get like if he was trying to moneyball it. I don't. It sounded like he was doing some mathematical thing as opposed to just like subjective players. He said I think he didn't really know the pool, so he was like just trying to figure out how to get like the best players for the amount of money he had, and he's definitely done it because he's the highest MMR average team, and I think the roles look better than Oz's, who's the second highest MMR average team, just barely behind him. Because after that it does fall down pretty hard by over 100 MMR, and then after that like another 100. So take a quick look at some Dode buffs here. First of all, I'd like to point out he actually has some core players, which is nice. Rabbi is a sorry, Rabbi. Yeah, anyway, long story. But off lane, safe lane, love to see it. A side lane core. Fishay plays a lot of off lane. He's going to be playing some mid this season. We just played this pub together right here. I don't look at my deaths. So Fishay is going to be transitioning to the mid lane. We have Turkey Gobble Cluck on the other core, and he is once again a core player, mostly offlane, but a little bit of everything. A lot of pause one recently. And then we have Cement, who is going to be playing support with Hawks, I believe. Cement is also a bit of a core player, but I think largely because of MMR and frankly how little he's played recently. I assume he's just kind of getting stuck on the support role, just kind of the way it is. I think Hawks was always a pretty good support in an RD2L environment. I think Mr. Fishay was always someone that looked like they played above MMR, at least on offlane. And Rabbi's been around a long time, and I think he's fairly reliable for a core. So overall, I like the team. I think they should be able to mostly play up to their MMR. I think probably one of the big negatives of the team is going to be Fishay learning mid. The games I've seen, he doesn't look comfortable on it yet. He doesn't have a lot of heroes he feels comfortable playing. His laning is definitely a bit weak right now. But I don't know. I've seen Fishay learn offlane at such like incredible speed and seemingly just pick up Dota very naturally that I have a lot of belief in him becoming a good mid laner pretty quickly. Especially given that there are definitely teams that have, even in his current state, weaker mid laners. So I'm generally pretty hopeful for the team. I'm definitely biased because they're my fucking partner team. But I don't think they're like top tier yet. I do think they need to work some stuff out. Their mid game play looked a little weak in the scrim I watched, and as I already said, Fishay, the role transition is going to take a while to get used to. So for now, I'm going to give them a B+. I'm going to give them kind of the Yuumi treatment, where I think they're a team that has a lot of potential in terms of raw skill, but similar to the Yuumi team, I think their mid game is probably going to end up needing some work, and it's going to depend on how well they gel as a team throughout the season. So yeah, moving on, we have Milo, the mid player of. People were commenting on his. Oh god, I have a lot of Dota links open. People were commenting on his hero pool. What was his hero pool? Oh, Arc Warden. That's the only questionable one I see. Oh, has he been playing Morph recently? It's just one game. Where's it? What were people commenting on? I thought they said those were heroes I shouldn't see any like Crusader playing, and I'd agree on Arc Warden, but the others look normal. Maybe TA is kind of the same as Arc Warden. It's kind of like dumb and cheesy and will teach you bad habits, but I don't know, the rest look normal. People whack. So that's their mid player. Looks pretty solid. Mommy Jesus is the safe lane player. I actually like the fact that Milo spent a lot on Mommy Jesus here. I think it's pretty sensible. He's a capable mid laner. He wants a good pause one. I as I'll say for like the 10th time, pause one very important. Pause one make or break the game. Having the highest MMR pause one, or at least the best pause one you can, is very big, very good. It's possible this dude's actually wait, he is playing pause one, right? I played with this team. I stood in for them. I should know this. Yeah, he is, right? His passkey is the offlaner. Yeah. So yeah, Mommy Jesus pause one. Yeah, good. So the tri lane here, or the tri core, I mean, is actually very strong. I think it's the strongest I've gone over so far. Actually, I think it's the strongest in the division, based on my knowledge of the players, at least. I feel like the only ones that come close to it are probably Nick and PVCs. Well, we'll get to the rest soon, but it's a very strong tricore, and I like that a lot. Uh, we have Joe Fitz, I think is a pretty capable support from ye old LD2L scene. He does have a slight lack of Dota recently, which is definitely concerning. Unless he has a secondary account he's playing on, this is a little bit of a red flag. And of course, Poppy is literally 100 MMR. I don't know. When I stood in for the team, I felt like my assumptions on the 1k MMR adjustment were confirmed. He didn't look any different from 1k player to me. Frankly, he played better than some 1ks I've seen, so it seems fine to me. I think the support duo is fine. It's definitely not like the strongest when you have players like Hawks running around on support, Best in the West running around on support. Those players are going to be scarier, but it looks overall fine. Um, can't really complain. And as I said, the core trio is very strong. Tasky's a strong offlaner. I think he has fairly few games too. You can take this whichever way you like. In theory, this means he's improving quickly, unless his recent win rate has dropped noticeably, but not really. This month. Why are these so different? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, he looks fine. So I think the core here is strong. I think the supports look okay. Wow, I really give Nick an A, huh? Maybe I should reevaluate this. No, I think this is fair. So yeah, overall, I think they're one of the strong. No, yeah, I'll give them an A. I'll give them an A. I've thought about it. I think they look pretty good. I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think they look like untouchable. I mean, they lost to the PVC team when I stood in for them, which isn't saying much because I fed and made it hard on them. But I don't know. They look strong on paper at least, so it's hard for me not to rank them highly. But moving on to Spazzy, I think this is the first like grief draft. Spazzy and Slizzy. I think. I mean, we'll get to Slizzy when we get to Slizzy. But this draft was, I think, a mistake. He spent, what was it? Not 890 on Pyro, which meant he had literally no money. He had to wait for pretty much the end of the draft. I think actually, can I do by picked by here? Whoop. That was funny how they're all linked. So if you look at the round that he picked people in, he picked Pyro round 1, and he literally couldn't bid on anyone else until the final round, because he just had so little money left. He spent a combined 130 on his remaining players, which is insane. There's like so much, oh, wrong one. There's so much pressure on Pyro to carry this team. Um, I think it's pretty rough. Spazzy himself is a support player. Pyro, I assume, is going to play pause 1, maybe off lane, who knows. Mystifilies is as a core player of sorts. Looks like a mix of mid and pause 1, Tetra, the other Rabby brother, off lane, maybe pause 4, and I Cry, support. So I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see Spazzy and I Cry on support. We're going to see probably Pyro pause 1, is my guess. Tetra pause 3 and Mystifilies mid. If I had to just take a shot at the roles there, I think this team will get destroyed. I think it's going to be like a worse version of Phantom team. This is like Harb team, actually. The pause one is very good, but there's like no other competent players on the team. Because at least with like the Phantom team, I think like Weep Slayer and the rest of them could kind of gather around to do something in the mid game sometimes. Whereas the Harb team, it really looked like a 1v9. And I think this is what this is going to be. It's an easy C score. I think spending that much on a player, and this is going to maybe sound hypocritical coming from me, but you don't have the luxury of fall through draft. I think this was super griefy, especially with yourself being one of the lower mark captains. So, in hindsight, maybe that bid should not have been allowed. I think actually in hindsight, what Tree will probably end up doing next season is having a max bid cap, at least for the lower league, where there's no fall through draft. Because I think unfortunately, this little experiment turned out very poorly. But we'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But I'm not holding my breath. Next up, we have Slizzy, which after doing my 1,000 adjustments, actually has an even lower MMR team than Spazzy. On the official draft sheet, he is slightly higher because Spazzy's iCry player is like 660 MMR or something. I've watched Slizzy do auction draft 3 times now, and I do not understand what is going through Slizzy's head in a single one of them. It seems Slizzy's main goal with auction draft is to get out of the draft as fast as possible. And I don't really understand why. He apparently spent like most of this draft looking at the wrong sheet or something, where he was looking at like the player list part of the draft sheet instead of the draft sheet part of the draft sheet. He seemed to just bid at random. Most of his bids went uncontested because they were pretty nonsensical, and then he just kind of put down a bunch of money until he got his last player. He did kind of the same thing in the Marcy Cup. On the team that I was on that he captained, I thought it was a pretty good team, but I do remember him like being the first captain to complete all his players, and it was kind of surprising. He like randomly bid 85 on beta bits, and I didn't understand why at the time. And it's like, well, whatever, he already got 3 good players, so YOLO, I guess, and beta bits was great to play with. But I don't know, looking now at 3 of these drafts in a row, it's like a pattern. And I don't know why. I don't know why he does this. I don't know if it's like a misunderstanding of how to auction draft or just not caring and just kind of wanting to, I don't know, pick players and have fun. I don't get it. But I think this draft was pretty griefy. I don't really think it's I don't know. I think it's griefy. I think it's kind of like intentionally griefing. Or maybe not intentionally griefing, but a griefing of some kind. Because I think this team is the lowest MR team, or the second lowest if you don't do adjustments like I did. Let's close all these real quick. I think there was at least some thought put into the roles. So let's open up some Dota buffs here. But he just doesn't really play the auction draft. He like buys players instead of bidding for players. He never really bids up on things, and it's very weird. Wait, this person's ranked 46% win rate? Why are they marked as 1,000? I didn't make this adjustment. They were just at 1,000. That was like their self-reported MMR. They don't look like who knows? Arcia, obviously a support, pretty well known. Davey Jr. looks like another support, but can maybe play off lane. Loose Moose is a pause 1 player. Slizzy probably going to be playing mid this season. Yes, he is. So we have Slizzy mid, Loose Moose 1, Davey Jr. off lane, and then Arcia and this person, Gam6 Green Lego Brick, on the support roles. And I want to say, the support duo is, one of the weaker support duos. The core trio is one of the weaker core trios because the overall average MMR of the team is just lower. I like the fact that the pause 1 is the highest MMR player. Obviously, I'm always gonna like that, but I don't think Loose Moose is like even the best pause 1 here. Like if you had these players and Pyro, I think the team would look okay. It would look like a Cats team, like the Cats team from last season, and I think that would be okay. Like it probably wouldn't be the best team, but it would probably be average. But I don't think Loose Moose is gonna really, unless I'm massively underestimating him, gonna be carrying a lot of these games hard. I think Slizzy will probably have some good games. Hopefully, David Jr. can have some good games too. Like I definitely don't think they'll be a winless team, but I do think they're probably going to be on the lower half of teams. I am just completely baffled now after watching him do it 3 times. How the hell Slizzy does auction draft? So that's a C. Whoops, slip of the finger. Moving on to PVC. On the official draft sheet, PVC is like the 3rd or maybe even 2nd lowest MMR team now I think about it. But that is mostly because Gwen is very low MMR. Like under 300, I think. In reality, I think she probably plays above that, mostly because Like I said, all these players are mostly kind of the same. She's also played with Harb for one season, which I don't know if that's actually a good thing or a bad thing. But anyway, they have. So the main thing I think with PVC's team though isn't just that the MMR average was maybe a little deceptively low because of that, but I actually think PVC's got two of the better cores, even though they aren't necessarily the highest MMR cores in Trashboat and Zach Roy. I don't think they're necessarily the most what's the right term for it? Reliable cores. I think last season Zach Roy was a little hit or miss, but when he's hitting very hard. I personally got hit repeatedly by Zach Roy when I stood in for the Milo team. Apologies. God, I don't know what it is tonight. Um, he literally like basically 1v9 to the game when I stood in for him. He had some crazy good performances last season. Actually, no, it was Trashboat. It wasn't even Zach Roy. I'm totally wrong. Trashboat 1v9 to the game. Um, when I played, and then Zach Roy also played well and had very good performances last season. So I think this team actually looks pretty good. Um, The 3 through 5 is definitely not the strongest. I'm a big fan of Beta Bits. I think he has the potential to improve. I don't actually necessarily think he is playing above MMR right now. I could be wrong because he's winning an awful lot. So I probably am wrong. Um, let's see, what's his recent win rate? 65%. Just ignore what I was about to say. I was going to say, I didn't think Beta Bits was blowing me. Like, I really liked playing with him, but I didn't think he was really blowing me away. But that may have just been because last season was too high of an MMR average for someone like him to shine. Hopefully this season he has his chance to shine on the pause 3 role. I think the support duo here is okay, not pretty just average. I think PVC and Gwen. And I don't know, Beta Bits is not on the higher side of offlane. The support isn't on the higher side of support. So I think that 3 through 5 is probably just average. But I think the core duo is the 1-2 duo. I mean, is very strong, deceptively strong even. I think it looks a lot like the Nick team in terms of setup. With two, it's a little different because Nick has his lowest MR core on pause 1 instead of pause 3, but it's kind of similar in terms of MMR spread and MMR average. I think Nick's team might be a little better purely just because of pre-existing synergy. But I think PVC's team, I don't know. I think I might give this one another B plus, honestly. Very high grading on the lower league team because I don't know. I think this does look pretty good. It's really hard to not like a team that has these two players on them because I think very highly of these two players right now, and so I think these two players make this team very good. Even though the 3 through 5 is just kind of average, and that's all. That's all I'll say about it, I guess. Um, I'll also, of course, be rooting for this team because my boy Beta Bits from last season is on it, and I'm a huge Beta Bits fan. So, hope they do well. Moving on to the final team before I am freed. Wait, no. Before I do predictions, is the Sir Fireball team. Another one of these higher MR teams above that 2K mark at 2138. The lowest player on this team is Sir Fireball himself at 1100. The lowest player he drafted was however the hell you say that, at 1900. So definitely made very good use of his money here. Let's go over the players. I do think this team. Well, we'll just have a look here. Sir Fireball, Wareham, and I believe Arcathius. I believe this is the support trio, or not the support trio, the core trio. There was a good screenshot of this guy saying something funny. I didn't have it on hand, unfortunately. So this is, I think they're pause 1. King Pirate is their mid. Alright, but hold up a second, hold up. King Pirate, 53% win rate. Kunkka most played hero. Claire, Kunkka most played hero, 72% win rate. Hey, support Kunkka superior. Get wrecked, King Pirate. But anyway, the Beta Bits not beta bits. Sir Fireball off lane. I think he looked okay last season. Wasn't incredible. Wasn't as bad as I initially feared when I saw a Viper spamming offlaner that was Herald at the time. So I have belief in him to do well. And Arcatheus, I've heard, is pretty good for their badge. King Pirate, on the other hand, is a Kunkka spammer, or so I was told. But someone appears to have like hit him over the head repeatedly, and now he's playing other heroes. I'm seeing Lena, Necro, DP, Clinks. This is a really good sign actually. Like these are heroes that are easy to pick up and very good to have in the draft. Huh. I'm impressed. I was gonna say I was gonna say that I didn't actually think the cores were that great because King Pirate was too much of a one-trick pony. But maybe he's not anymore. Maybe he's finally branching out. If King Pirate actually branches out and just gets even like a tiny bit comfortable on some other heroes instead of playing like literally just Kunkka game after Kunkka game, I mean, I think this team's actually probably fine. Like I said, I think Sir Fireball does okay for their badge. I've heard good things about Arcatheus, but I haven't seen them myself, so for now I'm just gonna say they're okay, and I'm just gonna assume they play like a 2K player, because that's what they are. The support duo on this team is pretty insane with Blackout and Biggie. I think this also works pretty well in terms of team leadership, because I think Biggie is talkative and I think Blackout is silent. And so I think that dynamic should work well for them. Blackout also playing a lot of Dota again, which is good. Oh, Blackout's a negative win rate early? It's wild. Blackout's an old timer. But anyway, this is easily the best support duo in the league. And so hopefully that does a lot for the team. The big thing is just can Arcatheus carry? Pause one, super important as always. And can King Pirate deliver their MMR when Kunkka is banned? I think those are the big questions for me of these two players. These other guys, I expect these guys to play well. I expect Sir Fireball to, yeah, I guess play well as well. But these two are the ones that I question, you know. Can Arcatheus carry to the same degree that like your Mommy Jesus can carry, and that your your Zach Roy can carry? I think is the big question. Hopefully the answer is yes, and if the answer is yes, then I think this team is quite solid. If also King Pirate can actually have a hero pool. For now, I'm going to give them a B because the King Pirate thing is still very up in the air. That's only one day. You never know. He could relapse. The temptation is strong. The allure of the sea. Kunkka, great hero. He might just go back to spamming it again. But if he can just keep up this recent like little streak of just playing other heroes, like at least for like a fucking week, then I don't know. This team could actually be A tier. I did not realize until just now how insane the support duo was that both these players got on the same team. It would have been completely reasonable for either of these players to be reached for in the upper div. Like Biggie in particular, I'm almost surprised Biggie didn't get reached for. But I guess maybe it's because his friend circle wasn't really amongst the captains. I don't know. But yeah, that's a crazy good support duo. As long as the cores can live up to it, the team should be good. But for now, Aware Ham, King Pirate, Kunkka Spammer, bit of a fucking question mark, so we'll leave them as a B. Alright, cool. Wow, I went through it all. It's only 12:17. We're doing great. Let's do some predictions so I can go to bed. Lava versus Stonks. Lava's team looks very good. Stonks' team, love Stonks, love Chris. But sorry, bud. I hope you prove me wrong. I mostly so FJ can lose more than anything. I want FJ to lose, so beat him. Yoff versus Woffs. This one could be very interesting. I'm pretty inclined to give Woffs an O2 because he deserves it. But I don't know actually. We'll see. I think this team, the Yop team, definitely has some big question marks for me. I'm gonna give it a 1-1 actually. I'm gonna go a little crazy here. I think it's possible, especially because the thing with like the Woffs team is that even though it's a bit of a joke, they do all play with each other like all the time. So I think week 1 they'll have a bit of an advantage because they're used to playing with each other. The Yop team, they did play some pubs together, which is great, but it's only been, it's been a few games together as a whole versus the bunch of games that Wafts has played with these people. So I think week 1, Wafts team, even though it looks like shit, will have a bit of an extra advantage there, and I think they can definitely take a game, if not 2, off of Yop. Bible Man versus Claire. I am gonna be cocky. I'm prepared. I bought the little Nas X shoes, and I'm going to be wearing them throughout the entire game. And hopefully, with those on my feet, Bible Man will crumble in my hands. So that's what we're going for. That's my secret weapon. Yumi versus Fiery Man. Yeah. I give that to Yumi for sure. I think the Yumi team. I don't know. The Fireman team has to kind of prove themselves to me right now. Yeah, for me to have more faith in them. It's a bit whack. The Yumi team, I had some very specific doubts about. The Fireman team, I don't even know. I don't even know where to begin. Oz versus Hawks. I think I have a legal obligation to put Hawks here, so we'll put Hawks. Because they're my sister team. Nick versus Milo. Didn't I give both these teams an A? I did. Oh, so that should be a fun match. Maybe I'll highlight the match to watch. The most interesting match of all. Well, you should definitely watch me, because I'm cool. And then I think this is probably one of the more interesting matches for me, based on my personal ranking of the teams. I think both these teams look good to me, so I think they're worth watching. I'm gonna give them a 1-1 for now. I think it's possible that Nick has the same thing Wafts does actually, where he's a bit of an advantage early on because of how much he's played with these players versus how much Milo would have played with these players. So maybe just for this week I'll say 2-0, but overall I think the teams are fairly even. PVC versus Spazzy. I don't know. Pyro would have to pull it out the hat, literally 1v9. I'm not seeing it. I think the PVC team looks pretty good. Who knows? It's possible. It's very possible, but definitely a 2-0 for now. Sir Fireball versus Slizzy. Probably another 2-0. I think maybe, I think Slizzy could win this if he's on a hero he can have high impact on, and Loose Moose has a good carry pick. Because Loose Moose is on paper better than... It's versus Sir Fireball, right? Yeah. On paper, Loose Moose is better than Arcatheus. And I think in theory, I don't know. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Holy shit. Loose Moose is better than Arcatheus, but I think the team as a whole, Sir Fireball looks a lot better, but who knows? Maybe if a Wareham chokes and Slizzy does very well. I don't know. They give Slizzy the clinks, Slizzy goes off. A Wareham just fumbles around because he's not playing his favorite pirate. Technically not a pirate, though. Why is your name King Pirate? You didn't even read the lore. Actually, this is disgraceful. I want to give them I want to remove Fireball from this entirely. Fuck you, Wareham. But anyway, I think Sir Fireball team's better, so it's probably 2-0. That's my predictions. I wouldn't advise watching this. Hopefully, if you've made it this far, it's because you skipped to the predictions and not because you watched the whole thing. And if you did watch the whole thing, God bless your soul. Cold and Fluffy coming next week.